The night shift at NASA's Deep Space Listening Station was usually quiet. Most operators spent their time watching screens filled with endless streams of cosmic noise. But on this cold December night, everything changed. Mark Wilson sat up straight in his chair as an unusual pattern appeared on his monitor. At first, he thought it was just another space anomaly, perhaps a pulsar or a distant quasar. But this signal was different. It had structure. It had purpose. "Dr. Roberts," Mark called out, his voice echoing through the quiet control room. "I think you need to see this." The older scientist walked over, coffee cup in hand. As he looked at the screen, hot coffee splashed onto the floor. The cup lay forgotten as his hands flew across the keyboard, analyzing the incoming data. This is impossible," Dr. Roberts whispered. The signal wasn't just organized. It contained mathematical sequences, engineering diagrams, and what appeared to be a universal translation key. Within hours, every major space agency on Earth was alerted. The message was being broadcast on multiple frequencies, using basic mathematical principles that any advanced civilization would understand. It wasn't just a greeting. It was a cry for help. As computers worked to decode the message, the International Space Command gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was filled with the world's top scientists, military leaders, and government officials. Captain Tom Harris, known for his calm approach to crisis situations, led the briefing. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, pointing to the large screen behind him, "what we're looking at is a distress signal from a fleet of ships currently stationed at the edge of our solar system, in the Kuiper Belt. They're not just passing through. They're stuck there." The room erupted in murmurs and whispers. An alien fleet? In our solar system? The very idea seemed impossible, yet the evidence was right there on the screens around them. The decoded message revealed more details. 300 massive ships, carrying what appeared to be refugees, had suffered severe damage to their propulsion systems. They had deliberately chosen Earth's solar system, having detected signs of an emerging technological civilization. "But why us?" asked one of the officials. "Surely there are more advanced civilizations out there." Captain Harris displayed another set of decoded images. "According to their message, we're the closest civilization with enough industrial capacity to potentially help them." They'd been watching our technological progress for some time. The data showed detailed scans of Earth's industrial capabilities, power plants, and space programs. The aliens had done their homework before sending out their call for help. Dr. Amanda Brown, the lead xenotechnologist, stepped forward. "The fascinating thing is, they're not asking for advanced technology. They're asking for raw materials, basic engineering help, and what they call alternative technological approaches. They seem to think we might see solutions their more advanced civilization has overlooked." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Space agencies worldwide began coordinating their efforts. Ships were prepared, crews were assembled, and emergency protocols were activated. Humanity was about to attempt its first major interstellar rescue operation. As the day ended, Captain Harris stood at the window of the Space Command Center, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, over 1 million alien refugees were waiting, hoping that this young species, barely out of its planetary cradle, could find a way to help them. He smiled slightly, remembering an old saying, "Necessity is the mother of invention." And now, humanity's knack for creative problem-solving would be tested on a cosmic scale. The first response teams were already preparing for launch. Within 48 hours, human spacecraft would make their first official contact with an alien civilization. Not as conquerors or as the conquered, but as rescuers. The greatest adventure in human history was about to begin, and it started with a simple distress call on a quiet night shift. The Earth ship Hope moved slowly through the darkness of space. Captain Tom Harris watched through the main viewport as they approached the massive alien fleet. Even from a distance, the ships looked different from anything humans had ever built. They were smooth, almost organic in shape, gleaming silver against the black of space. Main fleet in visual range. announced Lieutenant Mike Reed from his station. Size comparison shows their smallest ship is bigger than our largest aircraft carrier. The crew fell silent as they took in the sight. 300 ships spread out across space, their engines dark. The alien vessels formed a pattern that reminded Tom of birds flying south for winter, except these birds were stuck in place. "We're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Linda West. Her fingers moved quickly across her screen. "They're using the same translation system from their first message." A voice filled the bridge, speaking in slightly mechanical English. "Earth vessel, this is Admiral Gray of the Combined Fleet. Thank you for answering our call." Tom straightened his uniform and spoke clearly into the communicator. "Admiral Gray, this is Captain Harris of the Earth ship Hope. We're here to help." The alien commander's image appeared on their main screen. Admiral Gray looked almost human-shaped, but with silvery skin and large eyes that seemed to change color as they watched. The bridge crew tried their best not to stare. "Captain Harris," Admiral Gray said, "we are grateful for your quick response. Our situation is becoming critical. Would you be willing to dock with our command ship for direct discussions?" The docking process took 2 hours. Earth engineers had worked non-stop to create a universal docking system based on the technical data the aliens had sent. As the airlock sealed with a hiss, both sides checked their atmospheric readings carefully. When the door finally opened, Tom led his team into the alien ship. The corridor was tall and wide, with soft light coming from the walls themselves. Admiral Gray waited for them with 2 other aliens. "Welcome aboard," the Admiral said. "Please, follow me to our command center. Time is precious." As they walked, Tom noticed how the alien crew watched them with curiosity. He later learned that many of them had never seen humans before, except in long-range scans of Earth. In the command center, Admiral Gray showed them the full scope of their problem. Holographic displays filled the air, showing the damage to their ships. "We carry 1.2 million refugees," Gray explained. "Our world was dying. A natural disaster we couldn't stop. We planned this journey for years, but a solar storm damaged our main propulsion systems. Our backup systems weren't designed for this many ships." Dr. Amanda Brown studied the technical readouts. "Your technology is amazing," she said, "but I noticed something interesting. Everything is perfect. Too perfect, maybe." Admiral Gray's eyes shifted to a deep blue color. "What do you mean?" "Well," Amanda explained, "human technology is usually full of backup systems, emergency patches, and quick fixes. We plan for things to go wrong. These systems look like they were designed to work perfectly, but only in perfect conditions." Tom watched as the alien leaders looked at each other. He could tell Amanda had hit on something important. "You are correct," Admiral Gray admitted. "Our civilization has achieved near-perfect engineering. But perhaps we've forgotten how to handle things when they go wrong. That's partly why we call to Earth. We've been watching your species. You're always fixing things, improving things, finding new ways when the old ways fail." Tom smiled. "Then you called the right planet. Humans are good at fixing things, especially when people tell us something's impossible." A young alien technician rushed into the command center, its skin changing from silver to a pale blue. "Admiral, life support systems on ships 47 through 53 are failing. We have families aboard those vessels." Tom turned to his team. "Well, looks like it's time to show our new friends how humans handle a crisis. Dr. Brown, contact Earth and have them send up those emergency power units we prepared. Lieutenant Reed, get our engineering teams ready." Admiral Gray watched the humans spring into action, amazed at how quickly they organized themselves. Maybe, the Admiral thought, these humans with their primitive technology were exactly what they needed. The rescue mission was about to begin in earnest, and time was running out. The mood in the alien ship's main engineering room was tense. Dr. Amanda Brown stood before a massive holographic display, showing the status of all 300 ships. Too many of them were flashing red. "The fusion cores are failing faster than we thought," said the alien engineer, whose name translated roughly to Blue Star. His silver skin had taken on a worried gray tone. "We have maybe 30 Earth days before total life support failure." Tom Harris watched as Amanda walked around the hologram, studying it from all angles. She had a habit of tapping her pen against her chin when she was thinking hard. "Show me your backup power systems again," she said. Blue Star waved his hand, and the hologram changed. "We have none. Our systems were designed to be perfect. They never failed before." "Never failed?" Lieutenant Reed couldn't hide his surprise. "How is that possible?" Admiral Gray, who had been quietly watching, stepped forward. "Our civilization has spent thousands of years perfecting our technology. We eliminated the need for backups by making systems that don't break." "Until now," Tom said quietly. "Until now," the Admiral agreed. Amanda suddenly stopped walking. "Wait a minute. Your ships are powered by fusion, right? But you're using a completely different approach than we do." She pulled out her tablet and showed them Earth's fusion reactor designs. The aliens leaned in, their eyes changing to a curious purple color. "This is primitive," Blue Star said, but his tone wasn't insulting. He sounded fascinated. "You contain the plasma with magnetic fields and physical barriers." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," Amanda replied. "Your systems are more elegant, but ours are easier to fix when things go wrong. And they always go wrong eventually." Tom watched as understanding spread across the alien faces. Their advanced technology was failing because it had no room for failure. Human technology, built with the expectation of problems, might be exactly what they needed. "There's more," Amanda continued, getting excited. "Those nuclear submarines we were going to adapt. Their reactors are perfect for this. They're already designed to work in isolation for months at a time." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians, combining their knowledge. The aliens were surprised by how quickly humans came up with solutions, even if they weren't perfect ones. "But this will only give us 80% efficiency," Blue Star said at one point, looking at a design. "Better than 0%, Lieutenant Reed replied with a grin. "Sometimes good enough is good enough." The real problem came when they tried to connect human technology to alien systems. Nothing matched. It was like trying to plug a toaster into a star. Tom found Amanda staring at the problem, still tapping that pen. "Any ideas?" he asked. "Maybe," she said slowly. "Their technology is too advanced to work with ours directly. But what if we build something in between? Like a translator, but for power." She quickly sketched out a design. It wasn't pretty. It used parts from both human and alien tech, connected in ways neither side would have considered alone. But according to the math, it would work. Admiral Gray studied the design. "This goes against everything we know about engineering. It's messy." "Humans are good at messy," Tom said. "Sometimes messy is exactly what you need." They tested the system on a small scale first. The connection device sparked and hummed, but it held. Human nuclear power flowed into alien systems, converted by their hybrid adapter. "It's working." Blue Star's skin had turned a bright, happy silver, but we'll need hundreds of these converters, and much larger ones. "Then we better get started," Tom said. "Earth is already preparing the submarine reactors for space launch. We've got 30 days to save over 1 million lives." As the teams began their work, Tom noticed something interesting. The aliens were starting to think more like humans, looking for quick fixes and temporary solutions. And the humans were learning to understand the elegant technology of their new alien friends. Maybe, he thought, both sides would come out of this crisis better than they went in. But first, they had to survive the next 30 days. And that was going to take every bit of human ingenuity they could muster. The Earth's largest submarine base had never been so busy. What was once a secret military facility now buzzed with activity as workers removed nuclear reactors from old submarines. Engineers worked around the clock, modifying the power plants for space travel. Back on the alien command ship, Captain Tom Harris watched the operation through a live video feed. "How many reactors are ready?" he asked. 32 so far," Lieutenant Reed replied, checking his tablet. "Another 18 will be ready by tomorrow. The whole world is helping now." It was true. Countries that had never worked together were now sharing resources and technology. Old submarines were being transported across continents. Former rival nations were working side by side. Amanda Brown rushed into the command center, her face excited. "Captain, you need to see this." She pulled up a new design on the main screen. "We found a way to make the power converters even better." The design showed a modified version of their original converter. An alien engineer named Swiftlight had suggested using their crystal technology to make it more efficient. It was a perfect blend of human practical thinking and alien advanced science. "Will it work?" Tom asked. "Already tested it," Amanda said proudly. "It's twice as efficient as our first design. We can power 2 ships with each reactor now instead of just one." Admiral Gray's eyes turned a bright gold color. "A sign of hope in their species. This is remarkable, but we still face another problem. How will we install these reactors on all our ships in time?" Tom smiled. "That's where human space programs come in. We're sending up 50 space tugs. Our best pilots will move the reactors into position." The next few days were intense. Space shuttles and rockets launched from every major space center on Earth, carrying the modified reactors. Each launch was dangerous. They were sending nuclear reactors into space after all. But there was no other choice. In space, human pilots worked in their small ships, carefully moving the massive reactors into position. The alien ships were huge, making the human vessels look like tiny worker bees around giant hives. "Reactor 17 is in position," called out a pilot named Jack through the radio. "Beginning connection sequence." Tom watched from the command center as the reactor was carefully attached to an alien ship. The new converter glowed with a beautiful blue light as it started working, transforming human nuclear power into something the alien ships could use. But not everything went smoothly. During one installation, a reactor started to overheat. "Connection failing on reactor 23, someone shouted. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Shut it down," Tom ordered, but Amanda interrupted. "Wait. Look at the alien ship's power grid. It's trying to sync with our reactor at the wrong frequency." Her fingers flew across the controls. "If we can match their power wave." For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the warning lights turned green. The reactor stabilized. Admiral Gray watched all this with amazement. "You humans, you don't just solve problems. You adapt to them as they happen." A young alien technician approached with a report. Some of the refugee ships had started growing food again now that they had power. Children who had been cold for weeks were warm again. Hope was returning to the fleet. "We've done something else too," Tom said, showing the Admiral a new set of plans. "We're teaching your engineers how to maintain these reactors. And they're teaching us about your power systems. Both sides are learning." Amanda nodded. "We're calling it the Emergency Engineering Exchange Program, or EEV for short." She grinned at the funny name. The Admiral's skin rippled with what humans had learned was their version of laughter. EEEP indeed. A fitting name for such an unusual partnership. By the end of the day, they had successfully installed and activated 25 reactors. Each one meant thousands more lives saved, but they were still racing against time, and they had learned that in space, something could go wrong at any moment. Tom looked out at the fleet of ships, now dotted with the blue glow of human reactors. They were making progress, but the hardest part was still to come. "Let's hope nothing else goes wrong," Lieutenant Reed said. Tom shook his head. "In my experience, something always goes wrong. The trick is being ready when it does." He didn't know how right he was. The biggest challenge was just around the corner. The warning came without notice. Lieutenant Reed's instruments picked it up first, a massive solar flare heading straight for the fleet. "Captain." Reed's voice was tense. "Solar storm approaching. Much bigger than the one that damaged their ships in the first place." Tom Harris looked at the data and felt his heart sink. They had managed to install power on half the fleet, but the other half was still vulnerable. Even worse, the storm would hit in less than 6 hours. "Can the fleet move out of its path?" he asked Admiral Gray. The Admiral's skin had turned a pale gray. "Not without power on all ships. We would have to leave half our people behind." Amanda Brown burst into the command center. She had dark circles under her eyes from working nonstop, but her voice was strong. "We might have a solution, but it's crazy. Really crazy." "Those are my favorite kind," Tom said. "What's the plan?" Amanda pulled up a diagram on the main screen. "We can't move the fleet, but we can protect it. The powered ships have strong energy shields. If we position them right, they could shield the unpowered ships behind them." Blue Star, who had become their best alien engineer partner, studied the plan. Like creating a wall of shields, it could work, but the powered ships would take the full force of the storm. "Can the reactors handle that much stress?" Tom asked. Amanda bit her lip. "Maybe. We have to modify them quickly. And even then, it's risky." They had no choice. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Space tugs rushed to reposition the powered ships into a protective formation. Engineering teams worked frantically to strengthen the reactors. "Shield wall is almost complete," Lieutenant Reed reported. "But we're cutting it close. Storm will hit in 20 minutes. That's when the first problem struck. One of the reactors in the shield wall began to overheat. "Reactor 42 is failing." Blue Star's voice crackled over the radio. "The conversion rate is too high." Amanda was already moving. "Get me a spacesuit. I'm going out there." "Too dangerous," Tom argued, but she was already heading for the airlock. "No choice, Captain," she replied. "I designed these converters. I'm the best chance we have." Tom watched on the monitors as Amanda's small figure moved across the hull of the massive alien ship. The approaching solar storm made the space behind her glow with an eerie red light. "Talk to me, Amanda," Tom said through the radio. "What do you see?" "The converter crystal is cracking," she reported. "The power flow is too strong." There was a pause. "Wait, I have an idea." She began rewiring the converter, her hands moving quickly in the bulky spacesuit. Blue Star watched her work through a camera feed. "That's not possible," the alien engineer said. "You're bypassing all the safety protocols." "Sometimes you have to break the rules to save lives," Amanda replied. The converter hummed back to life, glowing brighter than before. "Storm hitting in 5 minutes," Reed announced. They had just enough time to get Amanda back inside. As she pulled off her helmet, the first wave hit. The shield wall lit up like a Christmas tree. The powered ships groaned under the strain, their human reactors pushing to maximum capacity. Behind them, the unpowered ships huddled in their protective shadow. "Reactors at 120% capacity," Reed shouted over the noise of straining engines. "The shields are holding," Blue Star added, his skin glowing with excitement. For 3 hours, they rode out the storm. Every reactor ran hot, some nearly to the breaking point. But Amanda's quick fix worked. The modified converters held together, channeling more power than they were ever designed to handle. When it was finally over, there was a moment of complete silence on the bridge. Then cheers erupted from both humans and aliens. Admiral Gray's eyes had turned a color that the humans had never seen before, a deep, rich purple that seemed to sparkle. "In all our years of space travel, we never attempted anything like this. We would have calculated it impossible." Tom smiled. "Humans don't put much stock in impossible. We just haven't figured out how to make it possible yet." But their celebration was cut short. A new alarm started blaring. "Captain." Reed's voice was grave. The storm damaged our remaining reactor supplies, and we still have half the fleet to power. They had survived the storm, but now they faced an even bigger challenge. How could they save the rest of the fleet with only half their resources left? Tom looked at his tired crew. All right, people. Time for another impossible solution. 5 days remained before life support would fail on the unpowered ships. In the command center of the alien flagship, Captain Tom Harris stared at the damage reports. The solar storm had destroyed nearly all their remaining reactor supplies. 147 ships still need power, Lieutenant Reed said quietly, and we have materials for maybe 20 reactors left. Amanda Brown hadn't slept in 2 days, but she refused to rest. She sat surrounded by technical drawings and damaged components, looking for a solution. Blue Star worked beside her, his silver skin dull with exhaustion. Suddenly, the whole ship shook. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Report," Tom shouted. Admiral Gray's eyes turned almost black with worry. "The flagship's main power core is failing. The storm damaged it more than we thought." This was bad. The flagship controlled communications for the entire fleet. If it lost power, they would lose coordination with all the ships. The rescue operation would fall apart. "How long do we have?" Tom asked. "Minutes," Blue Star replied. "Maybe less." Amanda jumped up, knocking papers everywhere. "I have an idea. It's crazy, but, Captain, remember how we had to bypass safety protocols during the storm?" Tom nodded. "You mean when you nearly got yourself killed?" "Yes, exactly." Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Their technology is too perfect, too safe. But what if we did the opposite? What if we made it messy on purpose?" She rushed to a display board and started drawing. "Look, their power core is failing because it's trying to maintain perfect efficiency. But what if we deliberately made it run rough?" Blue Star's skin changed to a confused yellow color. "Run rough. That goes against all our engineering principles." "Exactly," Amanda said. "It's like an old car engine. Sometimes it runs better when it's a little banged up. You just have to know how to knock it in the right way." Tom looked at Admiral Gray. "It's your ship, Admiral. Your call." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. "We trusted human innovation this far. We'll trust it again. Do it." What happened next was like watching a master mechanic work on a spaceship. Amanda and Blue Star rewired the alien power core, deliberately introducing small imperfections. They made it run rough, as Amanda called it. "Ready?" Amanda asked, her hand on the final switch. The ship's lights were flickering now. Time was almost up. "Do it," Tom ordered. Amanda threw the switch. For a terrible moment, everything went dark. Then the power came back, not with the usual smooth hum of alien technology, but with a rough, uneven pulse that reminded Tom of an old motorcycle engine. "It's working." Blue Star's skin had turned bright silver. "The core is stabilizing. But it's so inefficient." Amanda grinned. "Sometimes inefficient is better than dead." But they still had a bigger problem. Half the fleet still needed power, and they didn't have enough reactors. That's when Lieutenant Reed spoke up. "What if we did the same thing to all the working reactors? Made them run rough so they could power more ships? Share the power," Amanda said thoughtfully, "like a city power grid." The next few hours were a blur of activity. They modified every working reactor to run at what Amanda called controlled imperfection. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Each reactor could now power 3 ships instead of 1. Tom watched from the command center as ships lit up across the fleet. It looked different now. No more smooth, perfect power signatures. Instead, the ships pulsed with an uneven but strong energy. "We're going to make it," Admiral Gray said, watching the power readings climb. "Though our engineers back home will probably have a fit when they see how we did it." "Sometimes the best solutions aren't the prettiest ones," Tom replied. As the last ship powered up, the crew finally allowed themselves to relax. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved the entire fleet. But their celebration was interrupted by a new message from Earth. Tom read it and looked up at his tired crew. "Well," he said with a small smile, "looks like we have one more challenge ahead of us. Earth wants to know if we can help the fleet get home." Admiral Gray's eyes sparkled. "Home, you mean?" "Yes," Tom replied. "Earth is offering your people a place to stay." 1 month after the crisis, the alien fleet hung in orbit around Earth, their ships now stable and safe. Captain Tom Harris stood at the window of the International Space Station, watching shuttles move back and forth between the massive vessels and the planet below. "Still hard to believe we pulled it off," Lieutenant Reed said, floating up beside him. "The hard part's just starting," Tom replied, but he was smiling. The door opened, and Amanda Brown floated in, followed by Blue Star. The alien engineer's skin was shimmering with excitement. "The results from the Earth Council just came in," Amanda announced. "All nations have agreed. The refugees can settle in the unpopulated regions of northern Canada, Siberia, and parts of Australia." Blue Star's skin turned a happy shade of gold. "My people are still amazed by this generosity. We came asking for rescue, and you've given us a home." The decision hadn't been easy. Housing over 1 million aliens on Earth was a huge challenge. But the benefits were even bigger. The aliens had agreed to share some of their technology. Not their most advanced stuff, but enough to help Earth solve its energy and climate problems. "How are the engineering classes going?" Tom asked. Amanda laughed. "It's funny. We started teaching them about backup systems and emergency repairs, but now they're teaching us about their technology too. Yesterday, an alien student showed us how to improve our reactors using their crystal technology. And our engineers are learning to think more creatively," Blue Star added. "We're starting to understand that perfect isn't always better." A flash of light from Earth caught their attention. Another landing site was being prepared, marked by bright guide beacons. The aliens would live in their ships at first, while permanent homes were built. Admiral Gray's voice came over the station's comm system. "Captain Harris, could you come to the main conference room? Earth's leaders want to make an announcement." In the conference room, screens showed government officials from around the world. Even more impressive were the faces of alien leaders from other star systems, joining via the aliens' long-range communicators. The Secretary General of the United Nations spoke first. "Today marks a historic moment. Earth is not only welcoming our first alien residents, but has also been recognized by the Galactic Council as an emerging spacefaring civilization." Admiral Gray's image appeared on another screen, eyes glowing bright purple. "When we sent out our distress call, we hoped for technical assistance. Instead, we found something far more valuable. A young species that showed us a new way of thinking. The human's ability to solve problems with limited technology is remarkable," one of the Alien Council members said. "Their practice of building redundancy and repair capabilities into their systems is innovative. We believe they will bring new ideas to our galactic community." Tom listened as the announcements continued. Earth would receive help establishing its first off-world colonies. Human engineers would be welcomed at alien engineering schools. A cultural exchange program would begin next month. Later, on the observation deck, Tom found Amanda staring at the alien ships. "Thinking deep thoughts?" he asked. She nodded. "A month ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're part of a galactic civilization. All because we're good at fixing things." "Not just fixing things," Blue Star said, joining them. "You humans see problems differently. Where we seek perfection, you seek solutions. Where we build systems that cannot fail, you build systems that can be fixed when they do fail. Both approaches have value." Through the window, they could see the first groups of alien children being shuttled down to Earth for tours of their new home. Some would be attending Earth schools soon, learning alongside human children. "So what's next, Captain?" Lieutenant Reed asked. Tom watched as another shuttle launched from Earth, carrying human engineers to help modify more alien ships for atmospheric entry. "Next, "We do what humans have always done," he said. "We adapt, we learn, and we help our new neighbors make themselves at home." As the sun rose over Earth, its light reflected off the hulls of the alien ships. They no longer looked foreign or intimidating. They were just part of humanity's new, bigger family. Sometimes Tom thought, the best way to become part of something bigger was simply to help someone in need. Earth had answered a distress call and found its place among the stars. This wasn't the end of the story. In many ways, it was just the beginning.